Your foundational insight that men and women have fundamentally different emotional needs has helped millions of relationships. When you first discovered these patterns, what was it that made you realize it wasn't just individual personality differences, but something much deeper about how we're wired as men and women?
I started out as a marriage counselor, and it's a fun story. I'd hear women complain about men, and I go, that's just not the way men think. I grew up with a family of five brothers, six boys. I know guys, and then I became a monk only with men. So I know, and I became somewhat realized after being a monk. I knew myself, I was a very happy guy. And then I, finished that period of my life to come out into the world to figure out what I'm going to do. So, in a sense, a late bloomer, but my first bloom was becoming a monk. The good life, very disciplined life. I was a bit of a soft male, have to say, in some ways. I was very, after being the fifth boy, uh, I was very connected to my mother. I think she wanted a girl. You have four boys. So I think I bonded with her a bit too much, but in a good way. I love my mom. And then what happened is, thank goodness to her, because she had an interest in psychology and whatever, and she learned that boys need mentors. My dad traveled a lot. One of my brothers ended up almost in jail. They sent him to military school instead. He was a genius, a very powerful guy. He ended up with two Stanford PhDs and forget what, but a really smart guy. And he was building rockets, and he ended up going to jail because he blew up a building to get more nitroglycerin. So anyway, my parents, by that time, my mother said to my dad, maybe we should do something different with Johnny and not punish him so much. Because, this is Texas, you used to whip boys. If you made mistakes, you'd whip. So anyway, my parents decided not to, my mother got her way and decided we weren't going to punish me. Give me a lot of freedom, a lot of independence, a lot of non-judgmental awareness. I said, well, what did you say to dad? What was it? She said, let's just put him in the hands of God, which really has served me well. I'm a very successful guy. I'm a very happy guy. And I really have a strong faith in being a good person. That's kind of what religion says of all cultures, be a good person and good things happen. And I think, we're talking to being successful males today. And part of it is having a sense of dignity to set goals. And personally, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And every day I have goals that I set. Now, that's really important. Now, my mother cultured this in me. I mean, I was like 14 years old, and she brought me to this field with this bunch of grown men with paper routes where I grew up. And she said, oh, Johnny, we're going to do something fun today. And she brings me to this place, and she's signing me up for a paper route. She wanted me to be with masculine men, beer drinking masculine men. Because, my dad traveled a lot. He wasn't a beer drinking masculine guy. So she had the wisdom, and then she had me sign up for karate. I was in the front of karate magazines. She wanted me to have mentors. Very, very important for me to have mentors of masculinity, masculine energy. And then, it's a long story, I'll shorten it, ended up becoming a monk, which is actually one of the most masculine things you can do. It's celibacy and no masturbation. See, one of the problems for young guys today is I've even seen YouTube videos saying masturbation's good for you and you'll get less prostate cancer. There's no evidence of that being true. It's a big lie. I've written a whole book on it. They cite this study of 26,000 men, doctors who masturbate, 21 times a month, and they had less prostate cancer. Well, the test for prostate cancer has been proven to be a lie. And it turns out to be that when you have higher testosterone, that test will show too high. And when you have low testosterone, the test will show you have a greater risk. No, it goes the other way around. Anyway, so the test is faulty. And the truth is, men who don't masturbate at all have the highest testosterone. And that's me. I'm 74 years old. I have sex regularly. My friends don't have erections anymore. I measure my testosterone. It's 50% higher than I was a young guy. And I'm just so grateful because I didn't learn this as a teenager, but I learned it around 18 because my mentor at that time was the most famous guru on the planet. Now, I don't follow him anymore, but I'm grateful to him. He taught transcendental meditation, which I think some form of meditation is really good for men. It's like cave time. The whole idea of Men Are From Mars was that You get in a relationship with a woman, they want you to be like a woman, and want to talk about your feelings and share and all this stuff. And you're guilty if you don't. But you see, if you don't take time for yourself after working hard during the day, working hard is very important. You have to use your muscles in order to build muscles, right? And then you have to rest your muscles, and then your muscles grow back. So if you're just sitting around watching your phone all the time or TV, you don't grow muscles. This guy lowers testosterone in men. We used to go out in the world and do stuff. Ironically, the highest testosterone producer, if you wanted to bump your testosterone up, which is the hormone of masculinity, is the hormone we need to make 20 times more than a woman. Otherwise, we're not able to access our full potential as men. This is like real. The generation right now, it's not just what I say, but it's also other things like plastics. They're endocrine disruptors. That means they block your hormone production and they make men more feminine. This is what's happening today. So men's average testosterone levels of a male 25 years old is 20% less than just 20 years ago. This is a disaster. This is really, really bad news. So when you do things that increase your testosterone, not only does it make muscle mass grow for your body type. You and I have about the same body type. We don't need big muscles, but we need to be show a little bit here,
Yeah.
for our body type. And everybody has different body types. The irony is when you see these big muscle guys, they have the lowest testosterone. This is how I first started studying how men and women were different. I had to start studying women and shopping malls and restaurants, and I listened into how they talk because they talk differently when men aren't around. And then I would read these muscle magazines. We didn't have internet or anything. And it was so weird because these are all like young men, right? They're building their muscles and they all had libido ads. Like the last thing I need is a libido ad, and the average half the men in America, 40, are using like libido pills. It's the biggest rage, I'm like a teenager. Why? Because I follow certain rules in my life, and that's called discipline. And discipline's hard. I was just watching a YouTube video of a Stanford guy teaching. The big problem today is we're soft. We're not taught that life's not supposed to be easy all the time. We have to do what's hard, and then we get to do what's easy. And you do what's hard, and you get to do what's easy. You got to balance it. Life has become too easy. There's a saying, which just comes to mind. I didn't come up with it, but I think it's brilliant. It says, hard times make men strong. How's it go? Because it's not my saying, so it's hard for me to, I'm going to go by memory here. Have you heard that one? Hard times make men strong. What is it? You know it.
Hard times make men strong. Strong men make for easy.
Good times.
Good times. Good times make for weak men.
That's right.
Weak men make for hard times. And then it repeats.
Yeah. So this is real. Now, nobody wants life to be hard or difficult because now I just did a book on actually how all of the environmental factors on our mothers when we're in the womb, we have all these plastics, okay? And we have atrazine, which turns the frogs gay. This is all known, okay? These are pesticides in our food. They're all endocrine disruptors. Well, in the first 3 months of pregnancy, when your body is shifting from being female to male, we all start out female. Then we turn into males when the DNA changes. It gets released. We get 23 chromosomes that override our female genes. So instead of having vaginas, we end up doing the opposite with penises and so forth. This is like a miraculous machine, okay? The universe or God's gift, however you want to look at it. It's beyond our comprehension. It's just that all we can do is study it and go, the genius of it is beyond anything. But we've messed it all up with these environmental things. And when a mother's pregnant, this is proven now, it can inhibit the development of the male brain, okay, if you're exposed to these endocrine disruptors. And so what happens is boys are now being born with less testosterone. And so we don't have the same courage, the same tendencies, aggression, competitiveness, drive. This is changed. And it's not changed for the good. When I say aggression, which again, I like to use that term because aggression is what makes me want to achieve. Aggression doesn't have to be evil. It doesn't have to be to hurt anybody. It's to protect my family. It's to work hard to make money. I want to be the best at what I can do. That's aggression. I'm not going to just play easy. And then I rest. Everybody goes, God, you're such a relaxed, easygoing guy. Yeah. And I spend 8 hours a day working. You work hard and then you have fun and you have vacations and you have a good time. You have to have balance. And what's happening here is that the younger generation has been taught by psychology that you should talk about your feelings all the time. Now, that's maybe the one thing that most controversial I'll share for your generation. It's everybody has to talk about their feelings. Now, I went to the movies last night with one of my buddies. I talked about woe is me but in a playful way. I'm not like feeling sorry for myself. I'm talking it out with a friend, not my wife, not a woman. Okay, what they want to do is be like a mother to sympathize with you. My friend doesn't sympathize. He says brutal. That's it. It's just like sharing some ideas. So I'm not saying men shouldn't share what's going on inside, but you shouldn't do it with a woman because what happens is they're gonna empathize like you're a child, and they're gonna make you into a child, and they all want you to talk about your feelings. They want you to, okay, what's bothering you? What's upsetting you? Now I'm going to give you some science. Okay, now this is so controversial. I get it. Oh, how can you say these things? Okay, so let me just give you the science. This is real. Anytime you're in a stress state, that's called cortisol. Okay, in a stress state, you're in danger. When you're in danger, your brain can't think correctly. It can only go by instinct. You're controlled by primitive instincts inside of you. This is proven. You come from a place of not solution, but a place of negativity. When you're producing cortisol, if you're a man, I'm just going to talk about men right now. It's different for women. If you're a man, what will happen is blood flow will stop to part of the brain that's optimistic. This is proven. You can't be optimistic if you're in a stressed state. Well, why would you want to be? If somebody said there's terrorists around your neighborhood, you got to go, where's the terrorist? What's wrong? What's bad? So whenever we're in a stressed state, we're not connecting with our heart. We're not connecting with our power. We're connecting with ignorance. Okay, you're acting like a primitive, getting mad at somebody. I'll just throw this in. Anytime you're angry, you're not producing male hormones. Most people don't know that. We think, oh, masculinity is macho, angry. No, look at the biology of when you're angry, your testosterone is low, your estrogen is high. So you look at a lot of these soft males, they get irritable in relationship. They get grumpy, they get irritable, they don't fulfill their goals, they don't have motivation, they don't have the confidence. And why? Because they're talking about their feelings. If I'm upset, I get upset, I have feelings. I don't go to my wife and say, I'm angry with you, or complain with her, or argue with her. And the best place to learn this as a man is in a relationship with a woman. There's nobody who's going to upset you more than a woman. That's just reality. You can go through life and, deny all your emotions about everything. But when you start to have sex with somebody, what happens is that's vulnerability. That's the only time a man actually in his brain does he become fully vulnerable in a healthy way. When you're having sex, this is proven. The proof here is that when you're having sex with someone you love, there's these things in your brain called mirror neurons. And that's the only time you can fully feel love is when they open up. And the only time that opens up for most men is when you're having sex. So sex is really, really important. And now we look at sex, and you look at when you have sex with yourself, or you have sex with a woman you love and you're committed to, even if you're not married, but you're committed to, I'm not fooling around with anybody else. I'm not fooling around with myself. I'm not doing porn online. I'm just having sex with her. They've proven you make different hormones. You make 400% more of a hormone called prolactin. I just love to see that, this is actual reality. It's not somebody preaching to you. It's look at what your brain's doing. Look at what your hormones are doing. So anytime your brain is not functioning in a proper way, you're producing cortisol in your body. Whenever a man is producing cortisol, his testosterone is low, his estrogen is higher. Let's get this. His testosterone is low, his estrogen is higher. So what will happen at that time when estrogen goes up, that has to do with emotions. So whenever you're angry, estrogen goes up. Whenever you're sad, estrogen goes up. Whenever you're afraid, estrogen goes up. If you talk about it, that's why women need to talk to therapists all the time about their emotions. Any good therapist will get you to talk about, well, what do you feel about that? What else are you feeling about that? What emotion are you feeling? Because when you talk about your emotions and feelings, your estrogen will go up. Now, why is that a good thing for women? Because whenever women are stressed, their estrogen is low and their testosterone is too high. We're the opposites. This is like amazing the way we're put together here. And we have a culture that's feminizing men to do what's good for women. Now, there's a narrative that you grew up in, which is that we all want to be equal, but equal does not mean same. I mean, the whole point is how can you be unique individual if we're the same as everybody else? Men and women are so different. And that's what my work has been, is explaining how we react, how we respond differently, how we have different needs, which you pointed out in the beginning. And I'll summarize those needs and let you ask questions and comment. But let me
Yeah.
summarize them first, which is if I try to simplify these things down. So we've just discussed men need more testosterone. Okay, so what makes testosterone? Well, the environment. What I do, I work hard. I told you I need to time off, work hard. Okay, that's one thing. Then if I work hard and I take my time for myself, that's called cave time. Then if I give myself selflessly to a woman and to my family, my testosterone goes higher. Okay, so that's the whole point of becoming a man, is rising to beyond just selfishness. Selfishness is, hey, I'm making money. I want to make money. I want to be successful. That's me. I want to be successful. That's not fulfilling at a certain point. You have to do it for somebody else that you love. And that's the Tibetan idea of compassion. Christians would call it love. But it was perplexing to me when I first read about, I studied Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy, all that stuff. And they talked about the virtue, strength of masculinity is compassion. So you'll see Dalai Lama always talking about compassion and everything. And the strength of femininity is wisdom. Now, to me, that was like surprising because, men think, oh, we're right. And we think women are so loving. Actually, that's not the case. Women love their children. I was talking to somebody today. I'll just say this. It's controversial. I get it. But I remember when we started bombing Afghanistan, which was the stupidest thing, right? We all agree it was a stupid war. And I'm out there just saying, this is the stupidest thing. I remember it. There's no reason for us to be bombing Afghanistan to try to change their culture. We failed. You can't go into another culture and change it. Like you can't go to your partner and change them. You can only bring out the best in them. You can't control. We're all control addicts. So we're going to go bomb these people. And I'm over there in the lounge. I'm saying, this is crazy. I'm watching the TV before I go out to give this talk at University of Southern California. And 7 women, all faculties, bomb them, bomb them, bomb them. Women are the source of war, not men. We're just trying to please women. We have to get this. We turn this whole thing around that like men are evil and whatever. Yeah, men are dysfunctional when they don't feel loved. There's no doubt about it. When their testosterone is low. Why is their testosterone low? One, they don't have mentors. They don't have jobs that pay them enough. They don't have skills that they're taught. And most importantly, today, they're not taught how to be men. They're taught men are evil, men are bad. What is that? Masculinity, evil masculinity. What is that word they use?
Toxic
Yeah,
masculinity.
toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Toxic people, no question about it. No such thing as toxic masculinity. Masculinity is why we have elevators. It's why I've got this house. It's why I've got a plumber. It's why buildings are built. Men made this civilization, and mothers made those men, the good men. But you can't be a good man if you don't have a happy mother. And they created this culture all in the last 50 years after World War II. You used to be able to be a man, go to a job, make enough money to support your wife and children until the children grew up and the mother could do what she wanted to do independently. And women used to love that because there was abundance and women knew how to be women. They don't know today. What happened in the 50s, and there was this drug, I forget the name of it, but that's too controversial. I won't go there. But just the thought of all these men who came home without who didn't come home. Now you've got girls growing up without fathers. And when girls go out without fathers, they don't know how amazing men are. So they don't trust men. And then when men look different, like I need my cave time, I don't need to be talking about my feelings. You say to me, what are you upset about? I'll say nothing. That's what you should say if you're a man. You should be saying, I'm not upset about anything. I'm thinking about something. That's it. Whenever you think, you make testosterone. Whenever you feel, you make estrogen. If you're stressed, you don't need to talk about your feelings. You need to first think about your feelings. Okay, I'm all into self-analysis. I've got an app that helps men process their emotions, particularly when you're low testosterone guys. Not even low testosterone, because I got emotions all the time. I'm very balanced. I've learned to balance my testosterone, my estrogen. It happens as men get older. I certainly have 5 times more estrogen than when I was a young man, which is wisdom. It's a good thing. But also I kept my testosterone higher and higher and higher. You've got to have the right balance. Everything is about balance. And today in our culture, we're feminizing males. We're getting them to do things that are good for women, but not good for men. Same thing for women. We're teaching them to do things that are good for males, but not good for women. But, we're moving along here. Therapy is really good for women. There's no question about it. Therapy is good for men, but you have to use the right kind of therapy. I need a different kind of therapy than a woman does. A woman needs a different kind of therapy. Would you go to a gynecologist for your prostate problems? No. The saving grace is there's so much medicine. Medicine knows clearly that men and women are different. You can't treat an illness. Well, what about our emotional illness? The anxiety, the depression, the addiction, and men are way more vulnerable to addiction to porn. So when I think about porn, I want every guys to know, I mean, I'm talking to guys here mainly, so I got to do some guy talk. Next time you get an erection, please just never look at porn. You can't control this part of the brain. It's unconscious. It says, I gotta be touched. It's the most addictive thing is a climax by yourself, not so much with your partner. If you have someone you love, like I mentioned, prolactin. Without prolactin, you end up having a crash, just like a sugar crash. You eat sugar, you eat one Oreo cookie, you got to have another one. This is the way addiction is. It gives you a quick hit, and then you have to have more. That's the addiction to masturbation, addiction to porn. And I mean, I'm so gone from all that because I had the good fortune of having a mentor who, in the Indian tradition, they say up to 28 years old, ideally somebody is celibate, which gives you more brain power and connects you to your pineal gland and connection to the higher powers, all that, which has guided me my whole life because I fortunately, at least during my 18 to 28, I think that was the time, pure celibate, no masturbation. Then when I started having sex with women that I wasn't having in love with, just a date, a one night stand kind of a thing, half my spirituality just disappeared. I didn't have the juice to hold. Like right now, I can just feel myself totally expanded, one with the universe, channeling wisdom and truth. It's all effortless for me. But if I was to have sex with a stranger or somebody I wasn't in love with, half of that would go away. So I got married and then it didn't happen because I was giving my life force to somebody, which is the semen. And what gets response is her orgasmic response, which is filling me with what men need, which is a woman's love, appreciation. When somebody appreciates you, thank God you're in my life. I'm so grateful you're in my life. I admire you. I think you're amazing. I'm so lucky to be with you. Boom. That raises testosterone. Anytime somebody appreciates what you do, your testosterone goes up. Anytime you make mistakes and somebody goes, it's okay, nobody's perfect. That's called acceptance. See, women complaining all the time. I teach women never complain to a man. Complaining is like an animalistic thing. It's a primitive thing. What you do is you can process with your therapist your complaints because you have this primitive part of you that controls you when you're stressed, but never with your partner. You process your feelings. Then what happens is your complaints become just requests. Every complaint is just a request, but women don't know this. They have to be trained as well. And the third thing that raises your testosterone is when somebody can depend on you. But women don't depend on us anymore. As soon as they started making money, do they depend on us? No. So many women today go, I don't even know why do I need a man? Why do I need a man? Dependable. If you don't, we had a whole culture based on men mainly provide money and protection. We live in a civilized culture. You got police to protect you. You got the government to give you money. So, or you got a job to make you money because you're fortunate enough to be educated. So what do you need men for? So men are out of work. We're all out of work. No wonder. No wonder we don't have high testosterone. This is feminism. This is what it did. So now the next thing, and I'm not against women being educated. I think women are the most smart people. They're so wise. They're doing stuff, some of them. Some of them are like men, dysfunctional. There's no question about that. All those women politicians who want war, as I just mentioned. War is evil. There's no justification for it ever. It's a bunch of evil people justifying the gains they get for war because they grew up in families where there wasn't love. That's where it comes from. And males who didn't have happy mothers who could open their hearts, and women who didn't have fathers who grew up in families where fathers weren't there for mom. If you don't have that, you can't open your heart. I've taught in the prisons. You hear these stories. This is what makes people criminals, is they don't have happy parents. And then the naivety of psychology, which says, oh, poor Wes, he didn't get to cry as a little boy. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Who cares whether you cry or a little boy? The problem is you had too much to cry about. That's the problem. You look at criminals, they have too much to cry about. They have got unhappy parents arguing and fighting and whatever. Mothers trying to do this all themselves. I have so much compassion for mothers trying to be a single mom. Impossible today. Or look at the whole thing about, I grew up, my dad went to work. My mother could have a wonderful life raising her 7 children. I never saw my mother unhappy once with 7 kids, 6 boys. How can that be? It was a different world then. We created a mess because we forgot the balance of masculine and feminine. So you are the new generation. You can rebuild your testosterone and change all this with an awareness that males and females are different. We want to respect each other. We want to give freedom. We want opportunity for all. But feminizing psychology has just ruined everything. Governments have done it with all these programs. There's like books this thick, this high of empowerment programs for girls started in the 90s and none for males. None.
Right.
Males need mentorship. Males need to exercise 2 hours a day when you're growing up. If that, you
Wow.
don't build testosterone. You need
Yeah.
male coaches. You need male teachers. You need male mentors. You should never be left on alone in the presence of other males who have dysfunctional families. You get bullies. We need supervision. Males are like, without supervision, we're the worst. So are females. They're just so catty and they're bullying each other now too. It's lack of supervision. It's lack of the right kind of training. It's lack of understanding that we are in a different world now. So I know I was going to let you talk. Let me say
Yeah.
one other thing, and that is, as soon as women don't need men, what do they need men for? What do you think? I mean, when women don't need men for money or protection, what do they need us for?
Well, I would have set up to recently sex, but actually many are now bypassing the desire to have children and get married. So that's even dropped.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe companionship at best.
Yeah, but there's only half of the women wanting to get married, and probably about 80% of all divorces are women being unhappy. What's going on here? You could either say, well, men are just jerks and men are awful, or you can just say women are unhappy. I'm a counselor for 40 years. There's not one man that leaves his wife that I've ever met who says that we have a great sex life. Or a man, and most of them, what they'll say is, no matter what I do, it's never enough to make her happy. That's the only reason we leave, a happy woman. So what's the answer here? We have to figure out as men how to help women be happy. But women don't know what they need to be happy because in the past, all they needed was a man who made money, had decent manners, and they were happy. They could raise their children. They could have all when you're raising kids and you have somebody supporting you, you've got a whole different set of hormones. One of my daughters just has a 2-year-old. She says, I don't want to work, Dad. I cannot work at all. I don't have the hormones for it. She used to be a workaholic. And as soon as she gets a kid, because she has support in her life, I don't have anything to do with it. And this child is so happy. It's unbelievable because he's got the mother's love, happy mother, husband making her happy, grandfather also helping along the way. Family is what it's all about, supporting each other. And we just don't have that today. This is where we have to step up. And, I want to come back to our diet, but from my personal opinion, it's this addiction to masturbation. And I'm going to say to the guys, so when that penis rises up, it controls you just like any other addiction. It says, touch me, touch me, touch me. So the Chinese have a technique. Every boy going through puberty should learn this. His mother should teach him if he doesn't have a father. His father can teach him if he has a father. This is just, it's a time right around that time kids will still talk to their mom, talk to their dad. And if this is a penis, you say, okay, now what I want you to do when that penis becomes hard and sticks up, you just, let me get over here. You do this, but you don't touch the top. You do this and you look at the clock and you say, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. See if I can keep it hard for 10 minutes. Because your goal ultimately is for it to become soft. Okay? You just want it to get soft, but it wants to be touched. But if you touch this, then it will squirt. And if it squirts, you lose brain power. You lose muscle power. So you don't want to squirt. Okay, what you want to do is just, and this is for all the guys who are addicted, because I know half the guys, if not more, are addicted to porn, listening to this thing, is just when it's there. But I tell you, you can't look at it. If you look at porn, you can retrain yourself with this only if you're not looking at porn. If you're looking at porn and you're doing this, it's like trying to put out a fire that you just poured gasoline on. It is, see what happens in your brain is when you look at porn, it's like your testosterone level surges to the highest level. It's like you are now the king of the tribe. If we have this monkey part of the brain, right? We all know that. And in a monkey tribe, you have alpha males. I'm an alpha male. My testosterone's high. Beta males have low testosterone. So in the monkey tribe, and we're not monkeys, we have a monkey part of our brain, but we can go beyond that. In a monkey tribe, all the betas, all the females, of course, want the guy with the highest testosterone. So they're all having sex with the guy who's got the highest testosterone. He's the king. Okay, everybody else is like serves him. And they have all hierarchy. It goes down the list. But the females mainly want to mate with the king. When the king dies, they all fight amongst themselves, and who wins the fight becomes the king. And one day, that monkey who was a beta has twice as much testosterone just because he's the king. And all the females want him. So when you go online and this woman is for you don't have to do anything. They're right there waiting for you. It's like you're the king. Everybody wants to have sex with you. I remember I wrote a book on this. What is it? I forget the name of that book. I've got so many books by me. Staying focused in a hyper world. That's the ADD thing, which is one major cause of it is porn. It's addiction to that high squirt. See, when you have the high squirt from doing it with a stranger or doing it with yourself, that's different from having the high squirt when you are doing it with a woman who loves you. If a woman loves you, that means she's choosing to have sex with you. She wants to have sex with you because you are such a good guy. Okay, so it's all hormones. Her estrogen levels are doubled. Your testosterone is doubled. You come together raising those testosterone and estrogen levels together. Then when you squirt, what happens is your body makes 400% more prolactin that keeps you from having this additional addictive high of squirting. You have this ecstatic experience because sex is really about making love. Making love is the whole point of sex. When you're young, you don't realize it. You're just horny. You just want to get off. But actually, as you mature and your program's about maturing, you realize that the reason I want to have sex is to feel love. See, check how you feel when you make love to a woman. You feel more love, and
Well,
you are
let's
getting more love.
Well, let's talk about that actually. Your work does emphasize that men and women have different ways of feeling loved and appreciated. And you've identified that men often feel most love through trust and acceptance, while women often feel most love through care and understanding. So, can you walk us through how a man can better recognize when his partner is showing love in her language and how he can express love in ways that actually land for her?
Yeah, that's a great question. You read my book, Men Are From Mars. It's good. I want everybody else to know that I've got the updated version, which is called Beyond Mars and Venus, which is addressing these issues here with hormones. Because people want to know science to back this up. Otherwise, oh, these are just John Gray's opinions. They are. They're my opinions of being a counselor for 40 years, going against the whole trend, which also raises testosterone. Where were we? Oh, what can we do for women? Okay, so now we have to understand what women need. Ironically, when a woman loves you, she goes to you for help. That's how women seek help. They just don't know how to ask for help. They complain. So when a woman is complaining about you, unhappy with you, what we have to learn to do is to realize they need to talk without us becoming upset at them for talking. But see, they don't know how to talk, okay? They always blame, they complain, they want to give you unsolicited advice. And you have to become like a martial artist. You have to learn to dodge. If somebody punches you, you dodge. You don't punch them back, you hug them at the end. But you got to dodge. I told you I was a karate kid. I was on the front of magazines. I learned this. I mastered at that time. I had all these teachers in my life, mentors. This is what we need is people who know more than us, who are smarter than us, who've developed a talent, who have a skill, and it rubs off on you. I'll give you another example. I was in a state championship for tennis. Okay, so I had a coach. He said, you could be a number one tennis player. You've got the talent. Whenever I played tennis with him, I was amazing. And when I didn't play tennis with him, but with my friends, I was terrible. I mean, I would still beat them, but nothing like when I'm playing with a skilled person. It's called resonance. If you play a C note over here, if you put a C note here and you have a guitar string, which is tuned to a C note, it will automatically resonate. You have some opera singer and the glass will vibrate, resonate, and it will break. It's resonance. It's a real thing. You have to associate yourself with smarter people than you. You have to listen to them. You have to interact with them. And particularly, they have a skill that you're naturally curious about and you want to develop. The problem is we've all been educated wrong. We've been fed information instead of what we're interested in. So what you have is all these boys that are, first of all, not exercising 2 hours a day. The next thing is they're not even interested. It's not relevant. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. Why are you telling me this? And half of what they tell you in history class is a lie. And so what happens for me, because I guess I was, because I was never punished, I've always been able to follow my heart. Nobody ever told me what to do. What I was curious with, I was able to follow them. because I had that freedom. School, I fell asleep every day. I couldn't sleep. It was like so uninspiring to me. But when children don't have freedom to be themselves and to follow their curiosity, and they're told what to think, they're told what to do, they're told they're wrong, they're told they're bad, they're told that, you should be punished if you don't do this, or you should be afraid of being punished unless you follow the good things, weakens masculinity. We are strong. We are independent. We do what we think is right. And certainly when we're younger, we go to people who have good values and we're inspired by that and so forth. I was fortunate by that. I was also fortunate to have a mother and a father who stayed together, who loved their family, a happy mother. I mean, I get it. I'm privileged in that, although we were middle class. It's just that my dad had a job, which most men had. I think it was $6,000 a year is all he made. And that was enough for a house in a middle-class neighborhood, 7 kids. Amazing. Anyway, I deviate from that. I was just watching a great YouTube on that one. I don't watch that much YouTube. I watch about an hour. Okay, I like to be informed, but got to be careful. Passivity in males is not good. An hour is good. You're working hard. As long as you're working hard, then you can be passive for a little while, and then you have to do something nice for somebody else. It's a whole thing. It's a cycle. Now, you asked me the question. I'm going to come back to it, which is, what can we do for women? So the first thing is to know how our brains work and how our hormones work. If a woman is ever unhappy, which we want our partners to be happy, right? You say, how do you get their love, whatever? Just make them happy. Well, first thing, you can't make a woman happy. You can only stop making her unhappy. Just get that through your mind. You cannot make a woman happy. Just like she should not be telling me what to do. If you tell me what to do, I'll rebel. Doesn't matter. You say to a child, don't run into the street, they're going to want to run into the street. This is just reality. You can't give a man unsolicited advice. Give me advice if I ask for it. Don't give it to me. That's one. That's for us guys. For women, what we do as men is we make them wrong for being unhappy. Now, I'm going to just share this, get this scene. I'm driving off and my wife is starting to complain. Something's wrong. We're going on a vacation. She said, well, why did you take that turn? You missed the turn. Now we're going to be late. I get all upset and I said, now you've ruined everything. You've ruined everything. Now I'm upset because she's upset. Now, really, who's ruined everything? Me. We have to get this accountability. She's upset. This is the only thing that happens in marriage over and over and over and over. Women get upset, then men get upset. Men don't get upset. You got a happy woman. There's nothing to be upset about. You're a happy guy. Everybody knows happy wife, happy life. Woman unhappy, then men get unhappy because she's unhappy. As opposed to my wife's unhappy, I know just what to do to help her find her happiness again. How many men know what to do? First thing you do is stop being a control addict and demanding her to be happy all the time. No woman can be happy all the time. Realistic. Nobody's going to give you money for free. You got to work for it. Well, same thing for women. Women are not just going to be happy all the time. You got to work for it. So what happens is women go up and they're really happy. And this goes with their hormones. They have their period. Then their testosterone and estrogen start to rise naturally. And 5 days before ovulation, their estrogen has to increase. Okay, so what does it mean? Her estrogen says, I could make a baby right now. So what do I need to make a baby? That's why women are horny if they're somewhat not stressed when they get close to ovulation. Men become very attractive to them. They want to have sex at that time because their estrogen levels are so high. Now, my wife wants to have sex almost any time because I know what to do to raise her estrogen. But just without having a husband who knows what to do to raise her estrogen, biologically, 5 days before their period, estrogen needs to rise. Otherwise, they can't make a baby. And that's the imperative. That's why we have civilization. That's why we're still here, is that women get horny at that time. They're like, okay, I need to be penetrated to make a baby. So if you're going to make a baby, what do you need? You need a man. You need a house. You need money. You need food. You need protection. You need somebody who's devoted to you because you're going to be vulnerable for 9 months. Somebody who loves you. So suddenly, around 5 days before their period, they're not going to be happy. They're going to start looking at what's missing. It's like women will go from 1 minute to everything's fine to we never go out on dates. You never talk about this. Why aren't you talking to me? I don't know what you're feeling. We don't spend enough time together. Just literally complaint after complaint after complaint. So she's in a stress state at that time. So what do we do as men? We get unhappy with them instead of knowing, oh, I know just what to do here. Like a karate master. You're the master. She punches you, this is temporary. See, this is the whole foundation of all Eastern philosophy, is to realize all suffering is just temporary. It passes. I remember as a little boy, the first thing I realized is, I was telling my mother, I was saying, it's amazing, Mom, I have this cycle. Things upset me and then they just go away and there's a new problem. And then it just goes away. There's a new problem. Is it? There's always going to be problems. Always. Somebody went to the Buddha and said, "Oh, you're the great Buddha. How can I get rid of the problems in my life?" And Buddha said, "Everybody's born with 83 problems. There's only one problem that you can solve." And I said, "What's that?" He said that you demand life to be free from problems. There was this funny show when I was young called Dobie Gillis. He was, I forget the name of the show, but he was always work, work. I don't want to work. I don't want to work. That's low testosterone. Testosterone says, give me more weights to lift. Okay. And I never finished that point on the weightlifters, why they need libido pills. I didn't figure this one out. I just had the curiosity. Why would that be? It wasn't until many years later, one of my clients was like one of the big weightlifter guys. And, people tell me their intimate secrets as a counselor. He couldn't get it up with his girlfriend. After like 3 times, he can't get it up. He can get it up with porn because porn gives you this impersonal, it's fantasy. Fantasy is not real. Real is dangerous. Danger will create testosterone and dopamine. A real woman is love. To keep it up with a real woman, you have to have a lot of high testosterone, which means you need to feel good about yourself. You need to have her help, her love and support. How do we love and support her? I'll come back to that, but I finished the story on the testosterone guy. I said, "You have 0 testosterone. Go test." He did. He came back and said, "I have 0 testosterone. How do I have all these muscles?" I said, "You use it up by building those muscles. You can't have so many muscles." People, I got muscles. I do like 15 minutes of exercise every day. That's all I need. Now, some people need more, but too much is too much. We live in this fantasy world. And then you got women all trying to lose weight by jogging and running, look like they're suffering. They're all in a stress state. You can't burn fat when you're stressed. We are so lost in our culture. Anyway, back to women. You asked a good question. When my wife is upset, what I know is I have the power to help her come back to being happy by not reacting. See, in your brain, what women need when they're unhappy is to have somebody feel connection to them. Like, I can understand why you feel that way. But what if she's feeling, I feel like you don't love me? How can I agree with that? I can't, because I do love her. So I can't connect to that because I'm in my logical part of the brain. Well, it turns out that something happens in a man's brain. I guess the way to start out, this is like a whole chapter of a book, but science has discovered that we have these things called, I'm just looking at the time, mirror neurons. Have you heard of mirror neurons?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So mirror neurons allow us to, if somebody's happy, we feel happy. That's a mirror neuron. If somebody's sad, we feel sad. Those are mirror neurons. Women's mirror neurons are open almost all the time. The only time a man's mirror neurons really open wide is when he's having sex. That's it. This is why women can increase their estrogen by having sex, is because her mirror neurons are open. So she's feeling me, feeling her feeling me, because we're all happy having sex. So she's feeling, and we feel more love because our mirror neurons are open. You can't feel love without your mirror neurons opening. The other place a man's mirror neurons open, otherwise they don't open, is when he's taking care of children. Okay, like if you have little children or whatever, the mirror neurons will open up. It's when you have compassion, when you want to help somebody, when somebody needs your help, mirror neurons open up. Except if somebody needs your help and they're blaming you. So if your wife comes home and she's complaining about her day or complaining about you, whatever, that's a moderate stressful event. That's called adrenaline. We have 2 major stress hormones. One's adrenaline, one is cortisol. When a woman is unhappy, we immediately go into adrenaline state because we think, oh, we have to explain to her why she's not happy. We have to explain to her why she's wrong. Now, is there any logic to that? If you understand women, the worst thing you can do is tell a woman what she should feel, what she shouldn't feel. Like the worst thing you can do to me is tell me what I should do and what I shouldn't do, unless I'm asking. Okay, I ask a lot, but don't tell me what to do unless I'm asking. I'm an independent, sovereign person. I rule my life. I create my life. I'm responsible for everything that happens in my life. And I look at that as part of masculinity. It's 100% accountability. Whatever results you get, you're not a victim. Anytime you're a victim, you're on your female side. You're making estrogen. Estrogen is the receptive part of us. Oh, you didn't give me this. Oh, you cheated me. People cheat me a lot. Okay. I get, when you're famous, people steal from you, all kinds of stuff, lawsuits, ridiculous stuff. Yeah, it upsets me for a few minutes. I have to process it, but I don't go complaining and whining to anybody else. I suck it up and I analyze it and then I let it go. And that's a whole art. I'm not going to teach that today. This is big stuff. People aren't taught this. The world has changed. I asked you a question before. I never followed up on it. What do women need us for? And what women need us for is to help them come back to being female. That's what they need us for. And women need to recognize that. That's why I'm right now finishing editing 6 books I've just written this year. I've taken a hiatus from writing books for a while. Now I've gathered so much research and understanding, sat down and wrote 1,000 pages and then another 1,000. Now I have to edit it down into 6 books. I've just finished one. But in that book, it's just so much science backs up my ideas. They're bulletproof. I got studies for everything I'm saying. So I know when you hear this and the guy's listening, like, oh, this is terrible. He's a sexist. They've been saying that my whole life. It's the biggest selling book in the world and would still be if they didn't cancel me off of all national TV. One day it all happened. Just like now we see people getting canceled. I was back then because they realized this guy is changing the world. And I have, it's all around the world. I mean, but then we can't have this is the thought. We need to break down the family unit, the attraction between males and females, and it's going away. Half the people that used to get married are not getting married today. Women go, I don't need men. Men can't get erections. Men's testosterone's too low. What's the solution to this? Give up the masturbation. Stop squirting. Stop squirting. Get your brain power. Get your muscle power. This is part of being a man. Only share that with a woman you're committed to and you're in a relationship with. And look, I would not be able to do it if I was watching porn. Okay. If I didn't have a partner to do it with, but even without my partner around, she's, out of town for weeks right now doing her job. And if I was to watch porn, I would sit there in bed with a big erection the whole time. This doesn't work if you're being exposed to porn, and porn is everywhere, and women are dressing today like porn anyway. This is hard on guys, hard. So you really at least don't encourage it by opening your phone and pulling up the porn. It's right there. You're designed as your lowest self, your most primitive animalistic self is designed. I got to go for that hit. And then it becomes an addiction. It takes a lot of willpower. It takes cold showers. You know what I did when I was a monk? Because sometimes that erection would just sit there for, you're sitting there meditating for hours and you got this erection. How do I get rid of it? Well, you can go jogging, you can lift weights, or you can do what I used to do is get into a cold bath. So this is back before everybody's getting into cold baths. That's one of the best things to get rid of an erection. Until your brain doesn't say, oh, I need to have sugar. I don't need that squirt. I can use that energy in a creative, cultural way, motivating me, creativity. We're just cynical forces that are behind all of this. Just like the cynical forces are teaching people to masturbate like it's this great thing to do. No culture in history has ever, ever encouraged masturbation. Never. People don't know this. This was the gift of immortality. This was the strength of masculinity. This was the strength of vitality, which is you don't ever share the squirt unless you're in a committed relationship. And for some exceptional people, they would never do it. Some of the great geniuses of time never had sex. They were just celibates, chosen celibate. But you see, when we hear the incels who are not having sex, they're not having sex because they don't have any courage to go out and date a girl, and they're satisfying that urge by using porn. That's very different from being a real celibate because there's a distinction there. I'm kind of like have to defend myself because I was a pure celibate. Cold baths, never, ever touching that guy. I didn't know the technique at that time. I learned that in Qigong when I studied that in China. One of the things is read Men Are From Mars like you have. It's such a helpful book. Beyond Mars and Venus will give guys tools to help women. But what happens with women is they're upset. Now, as soon as a woman's upset, our mirror neurons will close down because we're feeling like we have to do something to fix it. Okay, so what happens is blood flow stops to the emotional part of the brain and goes to the prefrontal cortex. This is proven. When women are emotional, blood flow stops to the logical part of the brain. This is proven. I know how controversial that will sound. Women get emotional, no blood flow goes to the logic part of the brain. Well, guess what? It's proven in science. Now, that doesn't mean that a woman running a country or a corporation is not logical. It means that in a setting like a relationship where she's vulnerable, in that setting, that's what's going to happen. She'll be more prone to emotion. Why? Because you're having sex. As soon as you start having sex with somebody, you're vulnerable. When you're vulnerable, you behave like a 6-year-old. You love, such beautiful love. Oh, we love each other so much. Goo goo gaga, which is good, but you got to integrate that into your adult self. So when women are emotional, don't be logical. Don't even say anything logical to them. And what you can say is nothing. Just try saying nothing, but something like, I hear you. What else? And I train women to tell your husband, you don't have to say anything. Let me just vent. Venting is an old thing. What it means is give me permission to be irrational, overreactive, a little crazy, and then we'll forget the whole thing. That's what it really means to vent. Women don't want to admit that. Okay. I wrote a whole chapter on that. That will come out in another book. Having women just admit, overreaction is a biological thing. It's proven to happen. When you have a strong emotion, when you're stressed, no blood flow goes to the logical part of your brain. So let's just make it a space. And what we can do if women don't learn this, it'd be great if women learn this, that's my focus. I've written 6 books for women only because they can change the world. We can also do it just reading Beyond Mars and Venus or Men Are From Mars. We don't need to know that much. Women, they're the ones who are unhappy. All we have to do is learn when she's upset, don't talk, don't look at porn, work hard, rest hard, and find someone to fall in love with and keep your word. So this is basics of masculinity. And don't talk about your feelings if you're upset. Now, if you have positive feelings, sure, talk all you want, but never complain, like whine, I'm so upset, they didn't do that, or I hate this, I can't believe it. You want to have this neutral, grounded, non-emotional, but not distant. Okay, so this is another thing of objectivity doesn't mean I'm indifferent, just means I'm not upset. So that's the whole idea. I'm not producing cortisol. So here's the thought. It turns out that if a woman is unhappy, we have to, in our mind, go, she needs my help. That's why she's talking to me. She needs my help. And my help is only don't try to change her. Just be quiet. Don't talk. And if you don't talk and she actually expresses any real vulnerability, which most women haven't learned to do yet, but if they can, that's why I try to teach women how to be vulnerable. If she expresses her vulnerability, even if she's blaming you, as long as you know this is temporary, you won't take it personally. You have to learn not to take things personally. And the only way I can do that is know this will pass. All I have to do is not talk. I hear you and let her talk.
Yeah.
And then if I get upset, go out and chop wood. Now that's a metaphor for doing something that produces testosterone. Because anytime you're upset as a man, you're not making enough testosterone. And that is very funny because there's one study that showed that the thing about testosterone, whenever you feel successful, testosterone goes up. Whenever you anticipate success, testosterone goes up. Whenever you set a goal and you're taking action to achieve that goal, testosterone goes up. If you're just sitting around procrastinating, testosterone doesn't go up. And we live in a, procrastinating society, unfortunately. That's called ADD. I wrote a whole book on ADD. What is it called? Forget the name. I got so many books I've written. This is called Staying Focused in a Hyper World, Solutions for ADD and Brain. I want to mention to guys to help free you from your addiction to masturbation. What I found to be helpful is a mineral called lithium orotate. People should write that down, lithium orotate. 10 milligrams a day or 5 milligrams a day of lithium combined with uric acid. The reason I've been promoting it for 25 years to help people give up their addictions to control. And that's all addictions are control. Can't just accept reality, have to intensify it. Masturbation is intensification. Anyway, it just came out. A study was done that lithium is now going to be prescribed by doctors for people who have Alzheimer's and also as a preventiveness to Alzheimer's. A 10-year study out of Harvard showed.
Wow.
Now, if it's helping Alzheimer's, it's helping everything. Dementia, memory, it's brain function.
Yeah, man.
When we have all this intensity in our lives, we run out of lithium. Lithium keeps us from addiction. So when you have addiction, you run out of lithium because it's trying to keep you from addiction. So everybody should be taking, I've been doing it for 25 years. It's fantastic. And I have lots of supplements, but it's one I want to mention to guys to give up their addiction to destroying their lives with
Well,
porn.
John, you've given so many good insights, and, I feel like we've gotten 4 master classes in an hour, and, your depth of wisdom and experience has just really shown through and through. So we'll make sure to put all that in the show notes, and just appreciate you taking the time to share all that. And we'll make sure that guys can check out all your resources that will be more than helpful and enough as a good place to start with learning how to mature.
I'm really happy to be with you. It's been a great interview, Wes. Thanks so much. Even though I did most of the talking, I tend to be like a wild horse once I get going. But thanks
That's
for having
okay.
me
You
on.
had a lot to share, absolutely. And guys, until next time.